Hello everyone and welcome to this video on Killing Floor 2's confirmed holdout mode. So what has been confirmed so far? Well, so far all we know is that it involves dynamic map creation, which one would assume is essentially the same as procedurally generated content. And on top of that, there will be two rooms that will always exist in every level, a safe room and a boss room. There is also confirmed in the post a new weapon which will be added at the same time as this new mode. But yeah, this new mode, what you'll be doing is starting off in the safe room in the start of a level, picking up your armor, picking up your ammo, picking up your weapons, all that good stuff, fighting your way and surviving all the way until you find the boss room at the end of the level, defeating the boss we can assume, and then dropping to the level below where the challenge will increase slightly, and essentially, from the sounds of it, it will be an endless survival mode, with a little bit of objective kind of focus thrown in. It's similar to Left 4 Dead's kind of campaign modes, where you would start in a safe room, pick up whatever weapons you wanted, and then go on, complete the story, and end up in the other safe room at the end of the level, until you eventually escaped the map. So this is really cool, and what can we assume from what has been confirmed? Well, given that they've confirmed that at the end of every level there will be a boss room, I think we can safely assume that at the end of every level, therefore, there will be a boss fight. Similarly, the fact that they've confirmed a safe room at the start of every level pretty much confirms that there will be a trader pod or something similar, and that we will have a safe zone to pick up ammo and all the things that we will need to survive the incoming challenge and hordes of freaks that will come our way. So, possible issues with this, well, with these assumptions, is that if we do get a boss fight at the end of every level, we will, chances are, get very bored of the two bosses in the game very quickly. As fun as Hans and the Patriarch are, and they definitely are fun, I do congratulate Tripwire on their integration of the Patriarch from the first game into this one. Didn't change much, but still is really cool. And Hans, you know, he's like this berserk mechanoid dude, it's fantastic. All that's fine and dandy, but when you're going to be fighting them at the end of every single level, I'm fairly sure most people will get tired of that fairly quickly. There's a bunch of things they can do to kind of fix this potential issue. Either make each level really long so that there's a pretty huge break between each boss fight, or you could add a third boss, which is my preference, because at the moment we've got only two bosses in the game. One of them is a kind of long-range focused one, the Patriarch with his missiles and his minigun and all that stuff. And then you've got Hans, who is sort of a hybrid. He can do up close fairly well when he goes berserk, but he can also throw grenades from a distance and has his twin machine guns, which is all really cool. So there's still space in the game to implement a third boss who is kind of purely melee focused. You know, given that Patriarch is sort of half cybernetic and half mutated, Hans is almost entirely cybernetic, you could have the third one be a melee focused, entirely massively overgrown mutation kind of beast creature who just gets up in your grill, goes on four legs, you know, almost hound-like, something like that. That would be super cool. So that's another possible fix for shaking up the system and making sure that the two bosses don't get too boring. You know, just add another boss to the mix. Or you could add kind of mutation mods to every boss fight. And you can assume that every mutation mod, as you go down each level and the challenge increases, as you survive longer and longer, these mutation mods will increase the difficulty of the fight dramatically as you go. Maybe it simply buffs the health, that's like the most boring example I can think of, or you can just increase the damage, or you can do more fun stuff, like, I don't know, give them the ability to create two copies of themselves, or, you know, you could go crazy with this idea. Mutation mods did exist in the first Killing Floor, and I'm sure the community have made kind of equivalents for the second one. I haven't really looked into it too much. But yeah, you could do kind of crazy, customizable, wacky, power spiky mods for the boss fights to shake things up. Another option to kind of keep things fresh would be to make the environment either super interesting visually or make the environment kind of interactive in some way. Maybe there's a weapon in the environment that you can lure the Patriarch into so that you can do, like, you know, half his health bar if you successfully pull off this challenging feat. Any of those options I feel are on the table for keeping that mode fresh in terms of the boss fights, but there's a high chance that they just don't do anything, and at the end of every level you will pretty much have a coin toss. Is it the Patriarch? Is it Hans? You know, it's one or the other. You have to kill them, and it's just that boss fight over and over again until the end of time or your team dies. I do hope they add something to freshen that system up, because I feel that could be a very real issue, just keeping the whole thing fresh. But yeah, another possible issue is that the idea of dynamic map creation, if that is essentially the same as procedurally generated stuff, similar to what we saw in No Man's Sky, where even though it was procedurally generated and quite possibly every world you visited was in fact a completely unique world, they certainly didn't feel like them. How that transitions into Killing Floor is maybe, sure, every single level that you descend into as the challenge increases and the endless survival aspect continues on, maybe every level will factually be a different and unique level when you look at the layout separately outside of the game. In-game, if they use the same assets for every single level, it will still feel thematically and visually the same, even if factually it is very unique. So hopefully they make enough assets to make the dynamic map creation, which sounds essentially like a rephrased procedurally generated kind of map idea. Hopefully they have enough stuff in the game to make the whole thing fresh with every level. Now, I do admit that there's a limit to this. At some point you're going to start seeing recycled assets and arts kind of things in the environment, but if they can make it as fresh as realistically possible, I definitely think this will help the mode be much more interesting. And at the end of the day, I do want this mode to be as best as it can be, because the player base count for Killing Floor 2 is getting a little bit worrisome. It's sort of stabilized at fairly regular few thousand people. But back in the day, the original Killing Floor had, you know, a fairly steady 8,000 people for a good long while. So yeah, I do hope that they make this mode as good as it can be, because I really do want this game to kind of live a healthy lifespan. There's not enough of this kind of quality survival type of game on Steam from what I've played, and yeah, I just hope it succeeds. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. There is, as I mentioned earlier, a weapon confirmed that will be released. Maybe more weapons at the same time as the Holdout mode, possibly earlier. There's a bit of an assumption on my part there again. If it's multiple weapons, I can't really make any predictions. We had a Berserker weapon last time, I think, with the shield and the club. So maybe it's another class. I'm not sure. Maybe a harpoon gun for the sharpshooter. That would be cool. Although very similar to the crossbow in many respects. But yeah, there is confirmed to be a weapon. There is confirmed to be many details of this Holdout mode. And I can only kind of wait for more details, really. Hopefully you guys are as hyped as I am. I hope to play a few more games in Killing Floor 2 before it dies off completely, at least. And all props to Tripwire, they've done a fantastic job so far. So, that's it for this week. Killing Floor 2 wise, unless we get some very quick news, which, based on Tripwire's kind of news release feed, that seems quite unlikely so far. So, as always guys, thank you for watching. I guess I'll see you in the next one, maybe. Thank you for watching, and see ya.